Never Work a Day talks to folks that are pivoting their lives to follow their passions. We talk about pitfalls, misadventures, hilarious and heartbreaking, meet the outstanding individuals, and learn about their continuing journey. I'm your host, Nickey Frankel, purveyor of platforms and creator of play spaces, and I'm so excited to bring you the stories of these extraordinary individuals. Our guest today is Solonje Burnett. Here's a bit of info about her. Number 1, raised in the suburbs of Newton, Massachusetts. Number 2, she came up in the nightlife of Boston and the nonprofit spaces. Number 3, worked in a variety of organizations in healthcare and the arts as an event manager and director of community. Number 4, best known in the industry as Weed Auntie, which is both the community-appointed title and the name of her cannabis education and consulting brand. Number 5 is the co-founder of Irvin, a cannabis data transparency company. And now here's Solonje. Hi, Solonje. Welcome to Never Work a Day. It's so good to see you.
Thanks for having me.
I'm so glad you're here.
Pleasure.
I discovered you because I'm very interested in learning about cannabis, and I never really thought to learn about it before. It was something that's been an interest of mine for a very long time personally, and used for my own mental health. And when I saw a bunch of your events and I learned a bit about your story, I really wanted to meet you. And after I met you, I found you amazing and glorious. And that's why I think we know each other, potentially.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, I appreciated that outreach, and now I'm a part of the Nickey Network.
Oh, my goodness. The Nickey Network. Adorable. It rhymes. And I wanted to learn a little bit about you just to start off, of where you first kind of encountered cannabis, or who was your mentor, I guess, in learning about that.
Well, honestly, I think for me, what was the impetus for my plant medicine exploration, I had an injury when I was in college. I played soccer at Wellesley College, and I pulled my groin on a run. It was awful, such a painful experience. And I was doing all these ice baths, and then terrible. You're just soaking your groin in ice.
Terrible.
For
That sounds numbing.
Yeah. And so that was something that just made me think about, how do I deal with pain management? And my ex-roommate, she was from Maine, and she was very excited to introduce me to a cannabis salve that she had made herself. You know, these Northerners, they like to do things like that. So I was rubbing this cannabis salve on my groin, as well as she really started focusing on, and this will help you just with your mental health around this injury. She started providing me with cannabis to smoke. So that was really my entree and foray. I had been an athlete for years, and actually, there was testing around those types of things going into college as well. So
sure.
I just stayed away from it. I was more of, oh yeah, I'll use alcohol and whatever.
Right.
But cannabis came to my aid literally during that time, and it kind of flipped my mindset. My family's from the Caribbean, and they had also some stigma around the plant, rightfully so, because there's so much persecution based on race around the plant and the medicine and the practice. So they were very much against it at first. But now that it is a professional industry, everyone's pretty cool.
Yeah, no, that's great. And I agree with that. I've been using it for mental health and for pain for a very long time. So we were talking about how cannabis made us feel better in our lives. Also, though, I mean, in conjunction with that, though, and you discovering that cannabis, how did you ever relate to community? Because I know community is a lot about what you do with the work around cannabis, too. I'm just sort of getting origin story information. Yeah.
So I think for me, community comes in so many different parts of culture.
It's a broad question.
Right. And for me, I had community through sports. I had community through music and the arts. So as a singer, still am a singer. I found community in nightlife.
Right.
I found it through doing good deeds and working in the nonprofit space. So for me, I think when the nightlife moment happened and folks were like, oh, you bring out a lot of good people to these parties. We want you to continue to do this, and you can get paid for it. I was like, oh, light bulb. And I also noticed an issue in nightlife, which is pervasive today, is that it is very circle of sameness energy.
Sure.
And you tend to go to clubs and parties and you see people that fit a specific type, whether it is age, sex, race, all of these different identity markers, people are not coming together in a multifaceted community way.
Right.
And so my focus on community has always been about diversity and inclusion and belonging, even before people were talking about those things openly, and even before there was an all-out attack and onslaught on those things.
Yes.
So in nightlife in Boston, realizing that there were Black parties that were hip-hop focused, and then there were white parties that were more like house focused or top 40 type of focused.
Yeah.
I started curating parties that would blend those, bring in DJs from both sides, and then be an advocate on the front lines for the discrimination that was occurring at the door. So bouncers letting in white guys in shorts and Tevas, but not letting in Black guys in their Tims.
And you saw that, right? And you wanted to remedy that. I mean, that's, and you didn't, and you thought, and you felt comfortable enough to be able to go into the community and create these parties.
I think,
right?
as a Black woman, we are super susceptible to being put in boxes and or having to seek out circles and spaces where you can actually be heard, where people don't talk over you, especially as like queer people as well. You're in a space and immediately you're othered. People and growing up as a child in Newton, Massachusetts, a predominantly Jewish neighborhood, being a Black girl with kinky hair from a Caribbean family, I stuck out even more. So I always wanted to create spaces that were safe, that were connective, that made me feel like I was a full human. And I think that has just come into my community building practice.
That is very aspirational, and I wish more people did that in terms of feeling like they could actually create spaces and events around that and not just sort of going along with what the status quo is.
Yeah. Well, I think most people do find safety in sameness regardless of the privileges they have. And so they will be like, oh, come upstate to this event without thinking about I'm the only person that looks like me here and what that's going to feel like with me just being that one identity.
Right. Not actually recognizing that would be something for you.
For me.
Right. That doesn't feel good for you necessarily.
And I think I have been a person like who's always been curious, Curiosity is cute.
It's so cute. It's so cute. I love curiosity. I'm curious all the time, so many questions.
Yeah, and so when you realize that, you're in these spaces and you are different, what can you learn from the differences that are presented?
Right.
So whether I was going to bar and bat mitzvahs as a little Catholic girl, very young, and experiencing that culture, or playing sports again and being the only little Black girl, or having teachers try to put me on a bus that would go back into the inner city because they assumed that I didn't live in the suburbs as a Black girl because there was this busing system. Like, I always was just curious about what is the dynamic? What makes people feel like I don't belong here, that they should be here and I shouldn't.
Why is that happening,
yeah,
right?
And that curiosity how can I remedy it?
Yeah, and that curiosity is pivotal, right? Because it actually changed your perspective and made you look at it in a different way, right? It made you look at the situations that you were in as to questions and how can you make it better.
I studied psychology and Africana studies in undergrad at Wellesley, and for me, I think one of the most intriguing and exciting things for me was actually understanding culture. Like, the behavior of people is really exciting for me. It's exhilarating watching how people interact, who they're interacting with, how they're speaking, what's the cadence, are they sitting by themselves?
How does it change based on who they're talking to?
With.
Right.
Yes, exactly. When do they leave? When do they feel uncomfortable? Like, what is this container? Does it smell bad? Like, what,
sometimes
as you're building all of these events, you're like, how do all of these different groups, whether you're introvert, or extrovert, an ambivert, where you are on the spectrum of queerness, where you are in your gender expression, like all of these things, how can I make sure that the queer person who is exploring their femness is now able to sit and do art and talk to people who might not be folks that they normally would chat with, but now they have that opportunity.
But you also worked with corporate companies, right? As you moved through your career?
I worked with nonprofits primarily.
Okay.
I started, after Wellesley, I went to Emerson College. I did broadcast journalism. I explored, which also I think is really important, communication and being able to engage in conversation and give your full attention and not be waiting to speak, but actually actively listening.
Yeah.
I think think that is like a flaw and something that this culture pushes is like, I need to be first to talk. I need to push my opinion. But sometimes you're pushing your opinion without having any idea of the landscape. And so you sound a bit off and crazy. Like, let's just be real.
Yes, no, that's true.
And crazy not in making fun of people and their mental health, but you get what I'm saying. It's just like, yo, take a pause, listen.
You're not reading the room necessarily.
This is something that actually can help you flourish and grow and be more expressive in yourself and learn more about the people all around you.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I think like coming from a space where I was othered and different, going to school, learning psychology, Africana studies, then pushing into communications and journalism, and again, having this curiosity, learning about specific subjects and diving deep into them, and then finding a way to express them to others, whether it was on the radio or it was on like our TV program that was at Emerson College. Then went to work in the nonprofit space. I worked first for Wellesley College. I came back to my alma mater, and I did annual giving. So I was calling up all the youngest alumni to ask them for money. So like, give this institution more money.
Please.
And then went on to inner city economic development, working for a company that explored food deserts and what was going on in inner cities and why bodega prices for like a bag of chips at the time were like $3, but in the grocery store, you could get that bag of chips at in a white neighborhood that has so much money for 99 cents. Like, why are we price gouging the poor? And why are they not able to get access to fresh fruits? And then I moved to New York and started working at GLSEN, which is the Gay, Lesbian, Straight Education Network. So as what they would see as like a cishet Black woman coming into this space, again, I'm like, this is the GSAs, the Gay Straight Alliances that were all across the countries in schools. Like, how can we make sure that our little babies, no matter how they show up, felt safe? And I had that experience growing up with my one of my cousins who was adopted. He was queer as fuck, as like a 2-year-old. He was putting glitter all over his body. And there's so much stigma around queerness, specifically in Caribbean communities because of colonization and Christianity, that folks were making fun of him all the time. And I was like, absolutely. Don't call him T-gay. That's my baby. Like, he's TJ. He's Trevor. Yes. Like, stop playing. Yeah. And so I've just always been a defender of those who are marginalized and those who don't feel like they have a place to belong.
That's so important because not many people feel like they can do that they feel like they have the power to do that. And they feel quiet about it and not sure what to do. And so it's very exciting to actually talk to somebody who feels like they can go out there and do that comfortably.
I feel like we're stronger together. I've now, in the cannabis space, I've really pivoted in working to so much so that people are like, are you gay? Are you lesbian? Are you bi? Are you what? I'm like, okay, I love these questions. You're trying to be curious to put me in another box. Like, she must be gay. That's why she's working with gay communities. Yeah. Or she must be this. That's why she's doing that. She only works with women. It's like, no, I work with people who have values alignment. Right. And I want us to coalition build to be able to be the majority that we are, instead of just putting ourselves in silos, right? And boxes.
Like, and then we're separated, and then we're not able to be together. Yeah, exactly. Absolutely.
We can be like this, or we can be a fist.
Yeah,
and go
exactly.
forward together.
Which is kind of necessary.
Especially
it's very
right
necessary right now. Mm-hmm. I mean, and so you were starting to the weed anti bit and sort of just how cannabis fit into the work you were doing with nonprofits? Or did it? Did it kind of tap you on the shoulder?
No, it didn't. So at that point, weed was just in the periphery. It wasn't something that I was focusing my advocacy around. I worked at this company called Live Gray, which was about the future of work and how can you make workplaces more human. There for about 1.5 years. It's one of the most incredible places I worked at ever. It was a team of like, no, unfortunately, it ended. And that was what catapulted me towards the cannabis industry. It was about 8 to 10 of us. By the time I left, or by the time it ended, I think there were 10 of us. And we were really, really focused on seeing people in their wholeness. In the workplace. Like, why are we berating people and making people come in at 9 a.m. when maybe you need to drop off your kids at 8:30 and 9 a.m. is impossible? Maybe you're just not a type A and you wake up later, but you can work late. And so they really drilled into me this idea that people can show up and be their best, but do it in different ways.
Did they work with other corporations to sort of instill those kind of philosophies?
So we would go into corporations and it would be like Fiverr, Uber, for Airbnb, and we'd also have conferences. And so I was the executive producer of their conferences as well as their D&I lead. Of course, as the only Black person, you also take the charge in the diversity point. So,
sector,
okay. But anyways, what was great about them is that we did get to go into these operations and like help them with like org design. Like, why is everything hierarchical? Can it be flat? What are you doing with, paternity leave or maternity leave? How can we change these structures so that people feel more alive at work? Because this is where you spend most of your time.
Absolutely.
And this is before people were doing a lot of hybrid work. Like, I worked 2 days a week in the office in Soho instead, and then also would take my team to work with me at Soho House when I'm like, okay, we're going to do it in person, all 5 of us, but we're going to do it at Soho House.
Yeah, we're going to.
Great. Why do we need to go into the office and sit in a cubicle or sit at these floating desks?
Absolutely not.
So it was like, let's get our work done.
Yeah.
Let's do it together. Let's communicate effectively. I'm not going to micromanage you and just get your shit done when you need to get it done.
Absolutely.
So it was really helpful to me in understanding how to build work ethos and values, and that helped me go into the cannabis space. My co-founder at my first company in the weed space, Danielle Swadish, someone actually approached her. She was an herbalist, as well as many other things, but she had a juice company, and they wanted to work with her to do an illegal product at the time, because this was pre-legalization. They were like, oh, we want to do body oils. We want to incorporate different herbs and so on. And so they started talking, and then she was like, but I want Solonje to join us and do this too. And I was like, all right, cool. So I kind of like fell into the space. And then used all of the tools around diversity, inclusion, and advocacy for marginalized groups, advocacy for people who have been previously incarcerated and, justice impacted folks, and poured that into the weed space, as well as fun and as well as connection and wellness, not just being like, I'm going to stand on this podium and talk about Blackness and incarceration, but also talk about pleasure and play. And conversations.
In relation to cannabis and also just sort of the business opportunities for people that came out of that, right? I mean, was there a bit of a boom in terms of, if you were in the cannabis space, with the people that could buy in to it, the sort of businesses that you could advocate for in terms of, Black business owners and women and people, people of color, were you advocating for that in that space as well?
We did that intentionally, specifically with CBD brands at the time, because that was what was legal.
Right?
Yeah. So we would work with local CBD brands. We were taking people on field trips to hemp farms so they could actually see the plant growing, to destigmatize it and realize just like you grow a tomato, which most people have never actually seen grown, you just grow this thing in the dirt. It is not cocaine. It is not MDMA. It is a naturally occurring substance.
Absolutely.
It is a plant. Like, that's all. So trying to destigmify it through that, as well as platforming and amplifying business owners that were marginalized, women, queer folk, people of color who were in that space, and doing partnerships, like having their products in our gift bags, doing field trips at their farm in California, because it's family-owned, wife and husband, like young folks who had a really diverse workforce, showing people who we thought were doing it right.
We're doing the work.
We're
doing
kind
the good work.
And thoughtful, and made, just conscious products to help people in this conscious consumption practice, because as we see right now with all the boycotts and everything that have been going on for over a year now, that where you put your money matters, and conscious consumption is a practice. Stop buying what you don't need, and if you do need to buy it from somebody that you're actually helping. Don't support these billionaires that hate you and are literally stealing all your information.
Correct. Well, that's
like,
right. That's
give it to a small business. Walk down the street.
Yeah, and yes, I agree, and I concur, and I agree, and I feel the same way about all of it. Who would go to these sort of field trips that you would bring on? Just curious.
Oh my gosh, from the field trips to the conversations, like we did a thing with Columbia Business School where we brought leaders. One was one of the founders of a woman-owned medical dispensary, the only one that was in the state at the time. Another was a CBD brand that had come from the legacy side and was doing CBD and had a shop in the Lower East Side or the East Village, we would bring all these people together, consciously making there's a white woman, there's an Asian man, there is a black woman, there's this
spectrum.
A spectrum, because I'm tired of going to events where everybody looks like one person.
Right.
So we would do that, and that had like business school people in it who were interested. How do I enter this industry? The farm event where we took people out, had live performances, had wellness treatments, all sorts of things. That event had a guy who worked for the MTA, another couple that was having their anniversary and wanted to celebrate in a cute way that was different. Like cannabis tourism is going to be huge.
Is that something you're still doing with the Weed Auntie?
I am not doing cannabis tourism like that. I am working on my first retreat, which hopefully, depending on where it will be, and it's out of the country, will be able to be weed infused. But even if it's just like I'm smuggling some gummies, there will be a moment, because I love to do wellness experiences or even open conversations mindfully, and by incorporating plant medicine, whether it's intoxicating like a THC or it's a CBD or it's mushrooms that are nootropic.
Right. I mean, and that's all becoming really important because people don't trust, and this is me jumping way ahead of everything else, but people don't trust Western medicine as much. They don't trust pharma, and so they are looking, I am, and a bunch of people that I know are looking for other ways to help themselves.
Yeah, and we live in a corporate culture.
Yes.
America is a giant corporation, and it stands by industries that are run by white men who have made it their job to make you sicker and spend more money. And that is across the board. Our medical industry and healthcare industry is terrible. Pharmaceutical industry is terrible.
It's terrible.
And cannabis is becoming corporatized as well. So it's like, you have to be conscious. You can grow at home. Most people don't even know that. You can grow your own weed that's low dose in a tent in your apartment. I have done that for products, for brands that have sponsored me to do it, as well as just for myself, as for the medicine I want to consume, as well as just for the joy of growing something. Like, she a plant lady. I love having plants growing. I love the smells of the plants.
Yeah, and just fostering that.
Yeah,
it's
I'm like,
beautiful.
hi, babies, good morning.
Good morning. I would love that.
Yeah,
I would
and
love
like,
to.
unlike these other babies, one who's really growing, she's
I know,
doing
look
great
at her.
over
She's
there.
doing really good.
Like, kind of like set it and forget it, like water it once a week.
Yeah.
Like, a cannabis plant is like not like,
it's a commitment.
It's a real, like, baby, you got to pay attention. You're like figuring out the levels of
the height. Do you have a little ruler? Do you measure the whole thing?
No, but you have to like notice the leaves. Like, it's such a sensitive plant.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, it's very, very cute. And when the smell starts happening, you're just like,
you're making me
flowers
wanna,
for me.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, flowers for me.
Yes.
I love that.
Oh, that's beautiful. That's so beautiful. I mean, so Irvin, I want to know, I'm segueing pretty quick because I'm excited about what Irvin is, and I learned about it a little bit, but if you want to tell me.
Yeah, Irvin, we are trying to do data differently. I think.
And you're the co-founder of
Yes,
Irvin?
I'm the co-founder of Irvin. The builder, developer is my business partner, Angela, who is based in California. We met at a conference like 3 years ago, and we started developing this product. She actually came to me while I was still at Humble Bloom, and we were thinking, consulting.
Oh, and what is Humble Bloom? Do you want to speak to
Humble
that?
Bloom was my old company that I worked with Danielle, and it was all about creating community and advocacy and education in the cannabis space. Right. When Danielle and I ended, I decided to come on full-time with Angela to build this out, because the one thing that, talking about aunties have a certain level of trust, you know? Like, people will be like, I will go to you because maybe you won't judge me. Maybe, like my parents will, or maybe you'll actually provide me with some new information that I hadn't thought of. So I have been using this auntie energy that I have really built up in the cannabis community to funnel have the BD happen, you know, like really bring in people. So I'm the chief culture and community officer, and it really is bringing in retail operators as well as brands to show them the benefit of sharing their data with each other, that this will help you understand more easily what is going on with your product. Has it gone, has it expired? Is it in quarantine? Like
So
how
it's
much you're
talking
going
about the
through.
data
It's
of the products.
the data of the products as
Okay.
well as the shops. Like where are you selling well?
A
and where are
resource.
things staying
Okay.
on shelves and not moving? Could you remediate and move that to another store that's selling well so your product doesn't expire?
So it's a support system, really.
It really is. It's a support system. It's like community again. It's like, how do we foster a level of collaboration over competition in the data space? And most of the other platforms that are doing some of what we do are really expensive. And we are like, how do we do this so it is not expensive for you?
Cost-effective model, right?
Yes, cost-effective for retailers. It's completely free. And we're just rolled out another thing, which is just email updates that literally are showing folks, like, this is what's going on in a daily frequency, and that's free even without signing on to our platform. So we really just want to help these brands succeed through having the analytics they need.
That's a very wonderful insight on the industry. So, I mean, how many different groups are signed up for
Right now, so we had to do a little bit of a pivot. What we realized is that the acumen around technology in the cannabis space is very wildly broad. There are some people who get it and they have, like, this is a fledgling industry, but even more so in New York, it's green. So the way they rolled out the licenses are for people who were justice impacted, some folks that were previously incarcerated, all of that. Not to say that that means you don't understand data, because some people are really good at hiring and know how to get the right people on their teams.
Yeah.
But some people really don't have the acumen for it. So to like log into our platform and have all these reports and things, it's kind of overwhelming for them.
Right.
So we shifted the model, and now we're going to this email like breakdown summary.
Okay.
And then should you want to buy in and level up, you can. And it's sponsored by different companies. So the emails have like our sponsor partners. And so again, that's why it's free.
Okay. That's such a good asset for the industry. And does that link with Weed Auntie at all, or is that two separate
things.
entities? So
and like Weed Auntie, like I'm trying to figure out, because there still is so much stigma, like payment processors, Instagram. Like I lost my Weed Auntie account
you said
back
that.
in December.
Well, that kind of speaks to the demonization a little bit behind, and that was a question. So yeah, you lost, and what happened?
I still don't have it. I went to a friend who works at Meta, and she went round for round trying to appeal this, and they were like, no. And each time, and because Meta is run by an idiot who wants faceless bots, you can't actually get in contact with a human.
Of course not. I was surprised to hear that.
Things keep changing. So she doesn't work in that department specifically, but she was able to go in and continue to appeal until they were like, no more appeals. And then this other girl I know who works for a cannabis company, her boyfriend works at Instagram. So he tried, and they were like, no. So they haven't told me anything, but since December 6th, it's been gone. And what they told her, she's selling CBD. I don't sell anything but like merch and events.
Right.
Like I don't have products for sale.
So it was just the name.
It's the name. And especially in a nameless, artificial intelligent rather than human intelligence kind of culture now that we're going towards, which is not going to do anything good for anyone. I really believe that, the environment and humanity. Like we're over here trying to find shortcuts when we need to go long and we need to dive deep. And this AI is just looking for anything that says that
just
name
trigger words,
and taking
right?
it down.
Taking it down. Yeah,
taking it down. So if it has like toke, if it has weed, it's kind of like how you can't say diversity or women's owned or whatever now because of Trump's decidedness of like anything that is not white Christian male cis het is a problem. It's like for them, they're just towing the line because they're like, our business is going, they're in the business of business. So whatever the administration says is what they're interested in doing. I mean, they kiss the ring so they can make more money.
Of course.
So they don't care about the casualties of small business owners or anything like that.
They don't care about anything.
No, they don't care.
I mean, but the demonization of cannabis has been going on for a really long time by men of industry, right? Because you gave me a little bit of information that I thought was interesting about it goes, to Rockefeller and all the rest. That sort of, and also speaks to the way in which we name it.
Yeah.
Also, do you want to?
Yeah, sure. Yeah. So just a little bit of a background. I mean, cannabis has been around and utilized as a textile, in paper, in actually making homes. It is such a uniquely multifaceted plant that can be basically processed for more than just inhalation, Like, I am the queen of cannabis in so many ways. Like, I live for CBD tampons, which actually just got banned by the FDA, this company that's based in the UK that I've been getting CBD tampons from. And I'm like, how? But so now I'm like, what am I going to do about my intensely, horribly painful periods that I finally found a solution for due to the innovation of this person.
And now they're banned.
Now they're banned because America hates anything good. So literally,
I agree.
they're like, oh, it's working? We're going to take that away.
No, thank you.
Yeah.
No, thank you. No, thank you for that.
So back in the day, probably about 100 years ago, when the demonization of the plant here really started was around Rockefeller laws. And they decided to ban it. And they said, oh, yes, it's because it's this horrible drug. And you could see all of the propaganda films and things that were coming out around it being the devil's lettuce, around marijuana, and marijuana specifically targeting Mexican folks that were working and using the plants while they were working in the fields. And so they made it an ethnic name just for that reason, so that the demonization, the fear tactic could make it so that the average white household would be like, don't touch that Mexican plant.
That sounds,
and then continued to demonize it with people who were jazz artists and musicians who were using it while they're dealing with all the racism and persecution and have to perform for people that dislike them. But it was used to make sails, for boats, for paper.
There's hempcrete, which I didn't know, which I thought is like concrete,
people use now.
Yeah.
And a natural thing that biodegrades, that is good for the earth.
Right.
Instead, it's like, we want to be captains of industry in steel, in paper.
And take from the earth.
And extract and destroy, instead of using something that actually sequesters toxin from the earth. Like, you have to be very careful where you even plant weed, because whatever is in the soil, it will suck it all the way up.
Interesting.
So it is a way to actually remediate soil and heal soil, where if you had a spill or something, you could actually suck it up with the weed. And so it's just like, when you know that history and you realize the applications, it kind of led me now to this place where, yes, I'm going to build community through data and something that's essential to folks who are growing a business. I'm going to build community in the space of, let's have events where we can meet and connect and explore products. And now also I'm creating a hemp blend jumpsuit.
Right.
So that people can really get the opportunity to wear their weed from farm to fashion.
And experience what that fabric is like and know that fabric exists.
And it's more breathable. In the time of Shein and Temu and all of this fast fashion that is actually destroying
the world completely.
Destroying the earth, child labor. It's horrible. And people are click buy without any kind of thought. I feel like right now I'm wearing all Mara Hoffman. I'm obsessed with her. R.I.P. her brand. But every fabric used, so intentional, always a small run. So again, I'm trying to model this. I'm not going to overproduce. I'm not going to make 10,000 pieces. I'm going to do a short run. Yeah. I'm going to make it where it's made here in New York in a factory in literally the garment district.
Yeah.
So you understand every part of this process was conscious.
Well, we're so separated from the process of where we get our things and where all of our things come from. They come in a box and we order them online, which I personally hate and don't trust and feel like is terrible and makes me very upset for us in terms of us just being so separated from who creates any of the stuff that we have and so sort of consumer-based that it makes me personally very upset, just to say. So I think it's great that you're creating something where you can actually track the legacy of it right where you are, and that you can actually have some ownership over what you're buying and you know what it is. So that's wonderful that you're doing that. I mean, so you have a series called Reflection, right? That you do. Do you want, I haven't been to one yet because I am burdened with a toddler. And
even
happy.
more of a reason for you to come.
I know, I should
Leave
just,
that
I
baby
should just,
with your man.
yeah, and show show up and not do anything. I know. So that's the mental.
Put her down and come
just
outside.
like I can go outside for a minute. She'll be okay. But what you said about it, there's some beautiful things in terms of intersectionality and plant-based sharing and all that. So what can somebody expect from that sort of event?
Yeah.
If you've never been to it before.
Yeah. Reflection is really an intersectional community care practice. So
Wonderful.
I started it with Soho House almost 4 years ago. I've had a community kind of curatorial residency / partnership with them for almost 9 years now. Started in music and now is in the wellness space. I am a breathwork guide, and I realized as I was going out and leading breathwork, attending yoga, most of the people who were highlighted in platform didn't look like me, and most of these practices originate in Indigenous, Black, and Brown community. Like yoga is not a white practice.
Yes, that is true.
Ayahuasca,
yes.
all of these things that people use that are plant medicine, that are movement, qigong, these are all coming from marginalized, melanated communities. So with Reflection, my goal, and also as a creative and somebody who's a singer, was to amplify and platform practitioners, creatives, and entrepreneurs in the plant medicine space in a container that would talk about these issues as well as allow people to reflect on themselves. There's journaling involved, live music or sound bowl. There's always some practitioner, and it's not about perfection. It's about showing up, and it's a safe space. So people will share. I walk around and I will have prompts and ask people after they've had the whole practice to reflect back in the community. This isn't just for you to write in your journal and walk away. Right. It's like, let's find the commonality. Let's find the sameness in this
conversation.
Group of people.
Yeah.
And I also do things like tell the person next to them that you care about them, even though you have no idea who they are.
That's so nice.
So people are literally like, oh, hi, I care about you. And it's beautiful to see. And it is very auntie energy again. It's like you have all these babies. I literally think all the people are my babies. As they walk in, I hug every single human, unless they are, touch deprived and not interested. But most people are so glad to get a hug from a perfect stranger. And to see Soho House members just walking oh, I didn't expect that.
Just sort of let it all fade out.
Let it out.
And
let
talk
about how you're 40 and you broke up with your partner of 5 years who you thought you were going to marry and you didn't, and now you have all this pressure and you're like, what's going on? Or you just lost your job, or you're terrified about the state of the world, or you're free Palestine and you lost your job because of that. There literally are so many reasons that most of us are walking around and we're not okay.
And we're holding on to all of that.
And we're so busy looking down at our phones instead of looking up at each other. And so this is an opportunity to see each other, heal with each other, and walk out a little bit lighter. And
I think some of your superpowers are that you know how to build a community. And I mean, how do you feel like people are drawn to you? Do you feel like that energy is something that is in with you and that you know how to then export? Because
I had to accept that.
I mean, was that always with you?
It's taken years. Yeah. It feels like it's always been there. From the nightlife space. And I remember there's a party that DJ MoMA and Ellie Escobar do at the Standard in Meatpacking, and it's called Dance, Dance, Dance. And I was one of the first hosts on it 7-8 years ago. And I'm a free-range human. They normally will be like, you're a host, sit at this table, here are drinks. I'm like, fuck that. I'm not sitting at a table. Just give me my drink tickets. And I'm going to drop them off, be like a dose of delight for you, You get a drink ticket. You get a drink ticket. And I will go and have my little puff break and be sitting by myself. And some trans baby will walk up to me and be like, hi. I'm just oh, hi.
Yeah.
And it's there's something that makes people feel safe around me.
Yeah.
And I feel really grateful for that. It also is very exhausting and depleting.
I'm sure.
Because it's also in this era of social media, there's a lot of parasocial relationships where people feel like they're closer to you than they are.
Yes.
So that can be hard. But generally, I see that as a gift, and I'm very grateful that people feel comfortable around me.
Yeah, that is a gift because not everybody has that as a superpower.
Most people are like, don't sit with us. And I'm like, you can. Please have a seat.
Or some people just feel awkward about everything. And so, I mean, so do you feel like you come up against things, though, that are not always positive?
Oh, hell yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I before anything, as you're like activist, I'm a humanist. I literally see baseline, we are all human. People were like, I like pets more than people. I'm like, you have problems. Like, you actually have a real issue. Like, either you do not like things talking back to you, you don't like conversation, you're conflict avoidant. Like, my psychology hat goes on, and my ears perk up
so interesting.
Because I'm like, why do you hate other humans?
I always wonder when people say that.
I immediately am like, yuck. I'm like, that's weird. I'm sorry. I don't know why our culture thinks that that's cool. Like, you will step over a homeless person in the street while your dog has a coat on it.
Right.
Like, I am very confused. I'm stepping in dog shit everywhere. I am mad. I'm so mad. If you want to go live with a dog, go to the woods and be the weirdo that you are.
Don't live in the city.
Don't live in the city.
I mean,
don't make everyone else feel awkward for trying to be rooted in humanity because they're trying to connect with other people.
This is quite a controversial stance.
I mean, people need to be curious and like figure out why they are the way they are.
I agree. There's not enough introspection.
And I grew up in a family where we had fish at one point, but I always was very confused about, like, why is it okay that we're putting something that should be in the ocean in a box? No spirit wants to be leashed. Nothing wants to be in a box. You're saying you're an animal lover, but this is literally just for your ego and your mental health.
Just
it
for
has
your own
nothing to do with the animal.
Oh, absolutely not.
Free them all.
Yes, I agree. I agree. This makes me feel better that I never had a pet. This makes me feel like I didn't miss out on anything.
You did good.
I feel fine about it.
You're great.
You know? Thank you. I feel good about it.
It's a red flag on a dating app for me.
I think so. If people are really in their dogs and stuff like that, I know.
Yuck.
I know.
Absolute yuck.
I am going to open up and talk about this stance now in public.
Please do.
I'm going to. I
literally yesterday I was at SAA, this membership club in Bushwick that I belong to and adore.
It's beautiful.
This woman walked in with a dog. I literally was like, is that a Muppet? Like, there should be a rule. No kids, no dogs. This is someplace for adults to connect. I don't understand. Why is there a dog bowl here? Like, is this an animal refuge? Like, if you want to have your dog around you, stay at home with it. Yeah. Or go have a field.
Why do you need to have it with other people?
Why is it here?
Yeah, I know. You need a field. Confused. I know. That's the whole thing about being in New York is we never had dogs. I grew up in New York because it's not fair to have a dog in an apartment. Yeah. They don't want to be in there.
To, like, the people around you, I also think it's a lack of awareness. Yeah. Like, to come into a space that's filled with people, you're not thinking, do people have allergies? Do people not like animals? Yeah. Like, why are you so bold?
Right. Agreed.
I'm not bringing a screaming child in here. No one wants your dog in a restaurant.
I know. No, agreed. No one does want a dog in a restaurant. Gross. I agree. Let's come up against that.
They do. People have their bitches in bags.
They do. They do all the time. Oh my god.
Bitches in bags. It's like, girl.
I know.
Blink, blink.
But does that dog really want to do that?
That's what I'm saying. They're
that dog
tortured.
Doesn't want to be in there.
Like, the thing is with dogs, like, you can never get a cat to sit in a bag, but like cats
dog,
mindless. They're just like, you feed me, so here I am.
I guess I'm just doing that.
Yeah.
I know. Oh my goodness. Well,
low threshold for love.
I like it. No, I like it. It's good. It's a humanist approach.
Yes.
I agree with you.
That's what I'm saying. I love the people.
I love the people too. I love people too. I can dogs and cats, you know.
I mean, and right now, the people need to rise. We need to actually communicate with each other instead of hiding away,
it's
you
true.
know?
And I feel like everyone does kind of want to do that.
And
I feel like it does take confidence, though, to lead and want to be able to.
But you don't have to lead, you just have to join. You just have to be curious about what organizations are doing what and where do I show up? How do I do it? You don't have to be the leader. And I think that's the issue, taking too much onus on yourself having to, like, tell everybody where to go. Like, I'm a part of the Resistance Revival Chorus, and it's a group of about 50, 60 women and non-binary folks. It was born out of the Women's March, which has its issues, but it is a beautiful place for me to both express and protest. So to be out at Union Square screaming about billionaires taking over our lives, speaking about the rise of Christianity and this crazy evangelical crap, like, you see your people and they look like everybody because we are the 99%, right? So it's just like, just come, just join.
Yeah, I know.
Instead of looking for, cats in costumes on your TikTok and Instagram, follow organizations that are doing the work.
And I feel like people aren't necessarily going out, though. They aren't really feeling comfortable. And I mean, and you are leading, though, when I say lead, like you are actively leading events and leading conversations, right? And you feel comfortable doing that because you feel like you have to.
But yeah, events and conversations are one thing. Action for your actual humanity, democracy, equity, like that has nothing to do. That's just me being a human saying I refuse to live a life that makes it so that I can't be equal to anybody else.
Absolutely. But if you're leading on creating these, I mean, I think that's also another superpower is leading, right? Is like actively saying like, I'm going to put together this thing. I'm going to bring these people together. And I mean, do you feel like a calling to do that, right? Like you feel like it's a responsibility to do that?
I do, and not a responsibility, but I think it's what comes naturally. Like I said, in so many places and spaces didn't feel like I fully belonged. And I think what queerness really is not belonging to the norm, right? It's like you are expressing and being outside, and you are different to what the norm and what people accept as the norm is. So for me, it has always been about making queer community, making diverse community, making inclusive, like, oh, this is nightlife, but I'm over here painting with a group of people I never met, or I'm getting, acupressure, or I'm getting like at this event when it's like most events are like, let's get drunk and take photos, and here's a space where you can take better photos, and like, that's it.
Yeah. I know. And there's actually bridging the community.
Yes.
Together.
Instead of like networking or working out, we're working on ourselves. We're working on how we can show up for each other. Because when you break down that barrier of difference, which is all superficial, and you realize like, I am you and you are me. And like, let's show up for each other and be we.
That's
right.
Be us. I know. That's true. That's right. I know. You are you. I am me. We are as different as can be. We can still be friends. That's from Sesame Street, and I sing that
Sesame Street.
all
Have they
the time.
banned that yet?
It's gonna be not yet. I watched it many times, and we sing a song all about how everybody can be friends.
Oh, I love it.
And it's so nice.
Sesame Street was so great. Sesame Street literally was one of the first places that I saw diversity.
Yeah, I know, and they're actually like canceling it because they think the diversity has gone away. It's the only thing we're allowed to watch in my house.
Oh,
that's it.
So sad.
You told us about some exciting initiatives in hemp in the jumpsuit. Mm-hmm. Is there anything else you want to share about exciting things that you're excited about that's happening that people can look out for?
Yes. One of my, besides the jumpsuit that I'm super excited about,
which I'm excited about
is launching May 11th. I'm going to have an event.
I'm going to buy one for my birthday.
I love it.
Yes, and on May 11th, I'll mark that.
Soon. Yes. So soon I'm going to send out like a pre-sale, pre-text to people's like, girls, it's available.
Wonderful.
But there's an event on May 11th that I'm working on right now, which will be like multi-sensory and have like hopefully all kinds of experiences built in that don't detract but add to this organic energy. Besides that, I have been working with a client called SAS that I adore. They are a queer, woman-owned, infused chocolate and nootropics company. And I've done a couple events with them, last of which was right before Valentine's Day, where everybody got vibrators and got and it was a launch for their newest line called Unwind. And so they have nootropic chocolate as well as brews, like fungi brews. And they are going legal fully, and they will have their product on shelves in April. We are doing a queer prom to launch their legal.
Oh, that's right.
Yes.
When is that happening?
April 17th.
Oh, wow.
And it's going to be at the Chocolate Factory in Bushwick.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That is so...
And homies now are working there. It's really nice to like have been in nightlife and just see your people still like in spaces and places that now are like really a part of the New York, especially Brooklyn culture, because that's where all the hangs and parties happen. It's like if you're not in a members club, you're somewhere in Bushwick probably, or in Bed-Stuy, or like,
of course, like
that's
you're not
where
in
the fun's
Manhattan.
going.
No, I know.
Sorry, people.
Sorry, guys. I don't know. The island's over. I wanted to ask you what some of your favorite things to do, because as you said, it can be exhausting, potentially being out there and drawing all the attention and creating all these experiences. So what are some of your favorite things to do? What do you like to just do on a day?
I love dancing. And I think it's because the nightlife baby in me, like I have been in the club since I was a teenager. So like going to like under 21 parties in like Saugus or Revere in Massachusetts, like where can I go dance? So yeah, now I have so many DJ friends and I love to just go to their events on the list and be the auntie on the dance floor. Like that is one of my favorite ways. Like movement is medicine. And so to move your body freely in this like organism of motion is so hot to me.
Yes.
I also really like taking classes that are mindful, whether it is breath work. I also have been getting into having one-on-one healing work. I lost my father in September and went to the funeral. Thank you. In October, and I realized I was just sitting with so much grief, not just from the loss of him, but the illness of my mother, as well as just like what's going on all around the world and in our backyards. And having energy healing, having someone sit with me one-on-one, do sound bowl, lightly dose me with some shrooms, and spend like 2 hours moving stagnant energy in my body. So incredible. I also just like one-to-ones with people. That has been something that has been incredibly important to me. I think that really started in the pandemic. Like I was always, everybody come over, everybody whatever. And I'm trying to get more back into that. But like intentionally being like, you and me, 2 hours. I try to do just a catch up at least one a week. And it's not focused on like professional. I can go that way. But it's just like, how are you?
Like, how's it
What's
going?
going on in your world? Are you okay? Is your family okay? Because we don't pick up the phone and like sit on like a landline and like talk to somebody.
I miss it. I know. I've been doing that too. I've been doing a lot of one-on-ones with people I haven't talked to in 2 years because I just miss them. And it's been like, and everyone said, why isn't everyone doing this? Because the conversations are needed. And it feels like a lot of conversations are transactional, and it's nice.
To not just be like, what can you do for me and what can I do for you?
Exactly.
I also am a big time pleasure activist, and I also believe rest is resistance. So I love sex. I love orgasms. I love pleasuring myself. I love being pleasured. I also love sleeping. Like I do think that we live in a culture of hyper productivity. Like people cannot sit in a space without looking at their phone, without looking at what's happening on IG, TikTok. Did I do this? What did I get? Like, did I make that deck? When is it due? Who am I pitching to? And it's like, girl, go lay down. And actually inspiration will come to you. Like you need to rest in order to restore, regenerate, and come up with more. Otherwise, you're just pushing forward.
Running on empty.
So I love sleeping. I love sexual activities.
Wonderful.
And I think that's it.
Oh my God, that's some stuff.
That's some stuff.
It was so lovely talking to you.
Aw, thanks, Nick.
Thank you so much.
I appreciate it. Weed Auntie loves you.
I'm your host, Nickey Frankel, saying if you do what you love, you never work a day. Our show is created by Preview Media. Our producers are Lenny Simos and Stefan Balsic. Technical support and editing by Tori Yako and Jasmine Jackson. Thank you for listening. Take care of yourself and those around you.